Okay, so today I want to talk about something that might be a little bit controversial if you've been selling for a very long time, but I think it's a topic that needs speaking about. And this was inspired by one of my YouTube comments from the last video that I made, so I'm getting into it today and I'm really excited to talk about this. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, obviously comment what you will, because at the end of the day everybody's going to have a completely different opinion, but this is my research as always, my data and everything that I've done in the last 5 years that I'm going to literally spill the beans on. So we are going to delve in today into the reasons why I think that Vinted is going to take over eBay and why it's a better platform, and we're going to discuss everything in this video. Main things that I'm going to be speaking about today is just from my personal knowledge, I suppose, that Vinted is going to dominate the fashion industry in the next 5 years. Why eBay, even though it's still a useful and powerful tool in other categories, when it comes to reselling clothing, it might not be as powerful as it used to be. Full disclaimer though, this video is not anti-eBay because I do still use it and I very much enjoy shopping on the platform. Just about understanding where the attention, where the buyer flow is in 2026 and what platforms are buyers using. Just what is flowing better so that you're not wasting your time down avenues and platforms that might not be suited to what you're actually reselling. And also so that you don't have to work harder than you actually need to. So let's just kickstart this off with the fact that I used to have an eBay business account and I was also on the program to enhance my business and grow it further with an eBay mentor. And this is a thing that I found, and it's something that literally the eBay mentor was telling me, that volume matters. So the more items that you have in your eBay store, the more sales you're going to make. And that's obvious with all the platforms put together at the end of the day. Whilst I was listing consistently and I had amazing stock, they were all vintage 1970s gowns and all that kind of stuff. Like I say, I had good stock. I did everything I was supposed to do. I focused on SEO. All my descriptions were aligned. All the photography looked really good as well. But there was just something missing. As my inventory was growing, just something shifted inside of me. And this is the reason, and this is the main thing that I'm going to this is the key point to take away from what I learned, was that I was doing more work than I actually needed to do. And here is why. With eBay, I found that I was doing more admin, more optimizing, more tweaking and more just checking my analytics every single night and day. And yet, whilst I did everything I was supposed to do, my clothes weren't being seen by the right buyers. And some of the time, my items were not being viewed at all. Now, when your item hasn't sold on eBay after 30 days, it becomes a stagnant listing. Something that just genuinely doesn't get spoken about enough with eBay and Vinted. And this is the idea of a stagnant listing. And if you don't know what that means, it essentially means that when an item has been listed after 30 days or more, and that item hasn't sold, that then falls down into a stagnant listing. And sometimes on these other platforms, it can be up to 14 days or after 30 days, but it's usually after 30 days. If it's not sold, it becomes stagnant. So when your item becomes stagnant and it's not sold yet, these things start to happen. So your item does not get pushed in search anymore, it's gone. It's basically a dead listing and it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything, it just exists on your page and it's not being pushed through the algorithm. This then means that that item stops getting favorited, it stops getting liked, like that doesn't exist anymore for that item. And I think it just quietly dies without telling you why. It just doesn't move and it sits there until you do these things. And the most dangerous thing that you can do is blame yourself, not the system. And that's where my head was at. And I think that's why I needed to make these little changes in my business model so I didn't feel that way anymore, because I genuinely thought, oh my gosh, my items are rubbish and no one wants to buy them. No, that's not the case, and I will tell you why. On eBay, visibility is not neutral. Listings will age, and so that means that momentum matters. And then once the item drops past the stagnant listing and just not really that desirable anymore, there's loads of backlog and work that you need to do as a reseller to revive that listing. And obviously this just requires a lot more labor. Then means that your account, obviously, if you have stagnant listings, that's pulling your account down through the algorithm as well. Then you're spending time on relisting, promoting, discounting, or just paying more to be seen, which is actually ridiculous in terms of reselling, because you're already paying for your stock, your warehouse, your studio, wherever you are. You don't need to be paying more money to have have your items seen. Here's my proposition on this, and how I feel is that, like Google, eBay is a search engine, not a fashion platform. I think this is where things get really important, so make sure that you stay tuned to listen to this info. eBay operates primarily as a search-based marketplace, or it's not showing you what it thinks that you want to see. So Vinted definitely do this, and they're pushing that more. eBay, just for me and what I can see, are not doing that. So that means that buyers are already going to places where they know what they want. That means that they're going to be searching for a specific brand, a specific model, and that can literally range from a desirable antique or a designer piece. Whatever it is, they have it in their head, and that's the thing that they want, so they'll search for it. And that's why eBay is actually amazing for these quality pieces. So if you are a reseller who is stocking these pieces, then make sure that you are stocking designer pieces, high ticket items, and antiques, because these will fly out, trust me. Of course, your one-off rare pieces that you're not going to find anywhere else are also what buyers are looking for in this day and age. But here's the issue that we have right now for everyday fashion resellers of brands like Levi's, Adidas, Carhartt, Ralph Lauren, all these brands that are oversaturated already. This is where we have a problem. Most buyers are not searching that way anymore, which then leads me to say that Vinted is more like a discovery platform. And when I realized that, this changed everything in the business. And this is why Vinted works very, very differently. And I will tell you why. Vinted is actually discovery led, and it's nothing like search engine optimization based at all. And how do I know this? So you might say, well, I searched for my own items into Google from eBay and I found them, right? I did the same thing for Vinted and nothing came up. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's where it clicked. On Vinted, buyers are actually just opening the app, a bit like Instagram and TikTok, and they're just there to scroll. And they're having a great time. They're shopping, they're discovering, and they're finding pieces that the algorithm of Vinted expects them to be interested in. Most of the time, they are just browsing, favoriting, and building almost like a Pinterest wardrobe of inspiration. They are mainly there to build outfits and feel inspired. Say that your item that you're selling on Vinted doesn't necessarily need somebody to know that it exists, just needs to feel right and look really good when it appears in the algorithm. And this is a little insight that most people will miss as a reseller or as a buyer on Vinted that go kind of under the radar that I've noticed that are really key points to take away from this video. So from what I can see, Vinted is actually rewarding this idea of freshness and consistency, not legacy listings that are so high in their value. It's actually rewarding consistency, and if you're uploading every single day. This then means that new listings that you are putting out every single day get more attention. And if you're doing this every day, it doesn't matter how long an item has been sat for. It does not make a change to your account. It doesn't infringe your account in any way. Active sellers are actually making more sales based off the fact that they're uploading more. The algorithm is rewarding this. And that leads me to say that momentum actually compounds and it doesn't decay your page. And that's why you can list something on Vinted in the morning and it could sell in the afternoon or that day, which I have never experienced on eBay once in my wholesaling career. So I've never experienced that. Whereas I'll upload something on Vinted and it will sell the same day. And here is why. And it's not because the item is better, it's because the system supports movement. Then leads me to talk about fees and psychological factors of both apps. Let's just talk about energy for a moment. Because business isn't just numbers. I think with eBay, you're constantly figuring out where to start again. And I suppose it comes down to this idea of you're looking at margins. So you're obviously going to be thinking about all the fees, the buyer protection fees, the seller fees. Every single fee matters in business. You've got to think about whether to promote your listing, whether to discount your item, or constantly having to go back into those listings and optimize them based off how the algorithm is going to perform in that week. And don't get me wrong, I've been there and I have done that. I have sat for hours trying to regulate the system and change all of the words, change my descriptions. Oh, is the sizing off? Why is my listing not selling? Which can create burnout and fatigue, and no one wants that when you're a reseller. But on Vinted, you price it, you post it, you sell it, you move on to the next listing. Also, as a reseller, that's exactly what you need for a business to run smoothly, and you're making consistent sales so you're not sitting on dead stock items. Of course, on Vinted, there are no seller fees, which is also a bonus. And this subtly changes how brave you are with your pricing, experimentation, and the volume of stock that you are moving. So now let's talk about why Vinted supports fashion businesses better. What I can see, Vinted is pushing out something that eBay is not really doing, and I found that Vinted is actually pushing wardrobe building behaviour more so than ever, and it's this idea of curating your dream wardrobe. To this idea that Vinted is actually showing you within the algorithm items and styles that it thinks that you want to see based off what you've clicked like on, which then creates this personal brand and style for yourself, which is something that eBay isn't really doing, or what I can see, it's just not pushing that. And I think Vinted have got it there, and they've nailed it down as to why it works. This is because it feels more intentional. So on Vinted, you can follow buyers and you can follow sellers, which again is something amazing, and it builds this kind of community around the app. Not only that, but you can bundle items in a huge bundle, which makes you feel more excited to shop because you can buy more. You can sort of relist the item after you've worn it a few times and thought, actually, I'm ready to give it a new home now. And it's this idea of like circular fashion, which is so important. But it just also allows you to favorite like your favorite aesthetic. If you type in fairycore, all the items that are fairycore based will be there for you to favorite and build a curated drop, or whatever it is that you're trying to buy. This gives buyers a better experience because it feels more like a Pinterest vibe. They're saving all your clothes, and then they get to check out with the ones that they actually can truly see themselves wearing. And I can tell you now, that's not accidental. That's their design. Vinted is closer to a fashion app than a marketplace. eBay is more closer to a catalogue from the 90s. It's just not moving with the times. And I think if it wants to catch up, it's got to change. It's got to evolve somehow in order to still stay relevant within fashion. So if you are building a reselling brand or a fashion brand, or you're just looking to make a little bit of cash on the side out of your clothes that you don't wear anymore, then Vinted is definitely going to align with those visions and with that energy that you're sitting with. If you're just trying to build a fashion-led business, please focus your time on Vinted this year, because you will make your sales faster and you'll make more money. And not just that, but you'll build a better community over there. Now, this is the truth that most resellers ignore or avoid. And this part, I'm sorry, it might sting a little, but it is the truth. It's a loving truth, I promise. I'm trying to help you guys. I hear it a lot, and I hear it in comments, and I'm just hearing this idea that eBay doesn't work anymore. What I'm actually hearing is my stock doesn't suit a search engine based platform anymore. Tell you now, that's not failure, that's evolution. Which then leads me to the balanced truth. You don't have to choose one. And that's the most exciting part about this as a reseller. You cross-list. You cross-list to all the platforms, and your item has triple, quadruple, however many times the visibility than one platform could ever give it. So I still believe that eBay has power, and I do think it's very good. But I think for high street fashion, everyday clothing, and just clothing that looks a bit different, it's probably not the platform for you. Vinted is actually removing friction, which is so important, because then resellers are not burning out due to this idea of you cannot relist your own item, because once it's live, it sits there and it will still appear in search even 2 months later. So the final message of this video, and that is, if something feels heavy in your business, often because the system that you're using no longer matches who you're becoming. And that doesn't make you lazy, and it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you're being redirected. Essentially means that you should be choosing platforms that enable you to grow and have this nice workflow that work for you without burning out. And in 2026, for fashion resellers, Vinted is a platform where that flow lives. And that concludes this video. So thank you ever so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you who is new to the channel. And if you are new to the channel, then please make sure that you smash the subscribe button and like this video. Please turn the notification bell on so that you never miss when I post. Let me know right now in the comment section, as always, like, do you feel the same, or do you feel the opposite way? How do you feel about this video, about everything that I've said? Please drop a comment, as I'd love to know your opinion on it as well. and anything, because it just could be the other way around. I don't know. It could literally be the fact that you're feeling that Vinted's not doing that, but eBay's amazing for you. And that's fact. There's always going to be resellers out there with different systems and different items that work really well for different platforms. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Drop it in the comments and let's have a chat. As always, I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next video.